Today, there are major developments which is happening in the state of Manipur, and in the latest development which is emerging from the conflict-ridden region, the NIA has uncovered a plot with alleged link to terror groups. The arrest of an individual believed to have connections with these alleged terror groups based out of Myanmar and Bangladesh has raised a big worry over possible sources of foreign funds and arms supply. The bigger question and very important question which arises, is Manipur witnessing more than just an ethnic clash? The cookie groups have raised concern over what they call as arbitrary detention in connection with the murder of the students, including 2 women. Meanwhile, in response, Chief Minister Biren Singh has vowed to seek capital punishment for the culprits. Rami, with the latest arrest of NIA, the entire gamut of what was happening in the state of Manipur, the ethnic conflict and all, and the consistent denial about the foreign hand into the trouble which is going on in the state. Do you think with this arrest and the kind of details which are emerging, it changes the entire contours of what is going on in the state of Manipur?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, Brijesh. I think this had to happen. It was only a matter of time. I feel that any observer of this region would have known this from the very beginning, that there was an inevitable role of groups and insurgent groups and vested interests in this conflict. And if they didn't, then either they had no clue about this region, or then, and the geopolitics of this region, or then they themselves had vested interests. We've been saying this from day one, that historically this region has had international interference, international interest. We have known the history of NSCN, we have known the history of NLFT. NLFT got its training in Bangladesh. It was trained by the ISI. We know NSCN used the roots in Myanmar to get their training in China. We know about the weapons that are so easily available across the borders. I have to say our agencies once again have done a brilliant job. I had no doubt, not just with the swift arrest of the people involved in the murders of those 2 young children, but also now cracking open these international links, because they're not very easy. These are countries that are unstable, that have political, economic instability. And it's not very easy to conduct investigations like this, because there's also transnational ethnic relationships. But having said that, you cannot look at these conflicts, Brijesh, any longer in a localized manner. Those days are gone. And this is especially true for areas like Manipur that lie on the border and are so important to India and have unstable, countries across, as well as porous borders. But let me say this, unfortunately for the Northeast, they're surrounded by countries like this. You look at Myanmar, you look at Bangladesh, and all these countries have a history of ethnic conflicts, which not only have an impact on India's national security, but they also have an impact on India's infrastructure projects in these countries. Also, Brijesh, let me take this one step further. I've just written an article about this, exactly the same topic, in Open Magazine this week. And I spoke about, the kind of international interests that are in these regions. You see, Myanmar, there's a reason that it's called the sacrifice zone. It's called the sacrifice zone because, of the kind of international investments in these areas and what they are willing to forsake for it. You see, after the regime change in Naypyidaw, the military crackdown has caused a lot of displacement. Of course, the Saigang region across Manipur has, they say, the coup has had an impact about 70,000 homes, or over 1.5 million people that have directly come into India. And that makes it a very precarious position for us because, just across Army, you have the Arakan Army, you even further upwards have the Kachin Independence Army, and all of these organizations have a transnational ethnic relationship with certain fringe elements of communities in the Northeast. And over and above that, Western powers are, because they don't, because they have vested interests, because of the critical earth materials that are becoming so and so much more important to the geopolitics of the world, there are more and more sanctions being made on one hand, causing economic and political instability. On the other hand, there is some sort of relationship building with local armed groups. All of this eventually has an impact on India. I think what we need to really start doing now, Brajesh, is we need to start looking at this in a geopolitical, geostrategic point of view, and not just in a localized point of view.
Okay. General Sewach, this new arrests which have been made by National Investigation Agency and the kind of details which are emerging, don't you think that it changes the way we were looking at this, this ethnic clashes, and how, now more and more proofs are emerging of how, this entire conflict is being fanned by people or militant groups sitting in Myanmar or Bangladesh? General Sewach?
Very correct. Brijesh, there is no doubt. Involvement of foreign hand was suspected from the beginning. This may be not the initiator, but then one knew it, that the Bangladesh and especially from Myanmar, it is always the terrorist group or the militant group coming and operating in India. As the things unfolded, it was known that from Myanmar, there are a section of population, especially the Chin population, after the military Janta has taken over in Myanmar, there is a lot of displacement which has taken place, and majority of them have shifted toward India, and they have come to the hilly area where cookies were there, and they were settled down there, and they were involved in basically poppy cultivation and drug sort of nexus. So this was very much known, but saying that direct involvement of China and ISI Pakistan, this has added more color. So there was a doubt because China has been always involved in creating a militancy northeast, especially in 60s, 70s and early part of 90s. Of late, it was not that much, but some reports are saying that China is still interested to create a sort of disturbance in northeast. And also Mizoram bordering Chittagong Hill. Now, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, Bangladesh government of Sheikh Hasina has been very proactive and have been always supporting of India. Remember what has happened a long time back in early part of 2000 when ULFA and NDFB, National Democratic Front, which they were operating initially from Bhutan. And in fact, I was commanding a battalion that time. We have gone and busted their camps in the border area of Assam, neighboring Bhutan. Their bases then shifted to Chittagong Hill. But this is also known that the Sheikh Hasina, when she came in power, she was very proactive and she busted all of them, and she gave us assurance that Chittagong Hills will not be utilized by the ULFA and National Democratic Front for anti-India activity. But this place is, one can say, autonomous region, and there is a chance of militant group operating, and these militant groups then coming and creating problem in India is a well-known phenomenon. What has happened is NIA has brought it out. This is a very well orchestrated thing has happened. Don't take it. This is an ethnic clash between two communities, Metis and Kuki. There is something more to that, and we had a doubt. Because the doubt was that, of course, 4,000 to 5,000 weapons have been looted from police armory within Manipur. But we were also knowing that there are about 5,000 to 6,000 weapons which has come from across the border from Manipur. And since the porous border is there, because there is a treaty signed of 16 kilometers, you can move on the either side. That had made it much easier. So therefore, three things stand out: macro-terrorism involvement, drug trafficking, also poppy cultivation being done in certain hill areas. Second thing, the weapons coming from Myanmar, and the militant group directly involved on the behest of China and possibly from ISI, operating both from Myanmar as well as Mizoram. This Mizoram thing which has come is a new dimension which possibly we have not thought earlier.
Okay.